Hello, this is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department at FIT. I'm going to do another video. This one on how to prepare your template to do the final design work for your 3-stone ring. I'll be doing this in Photoshop. So first thing I'm going to do is create a new file. In Photoshop, you would do that coming over here to this window. Set this to inches. Let's make it 7.5 by 10 inches by 300 pixels per inch. RGB should be your color. You have other options here, grayscale, CMYK, etc. Always make sure it's RGB color. Background you want to be white. Hit create. And there is our canvas, as it were. Okay, next thing I need to do is I need to borrow from our blackboard the ring template that I set up for us the first week of class. So, let's see, I have a ring template here, so this hopefully is what I want. So, yeah. So we want to save the image, and I'll just put it on my desktop. Basically, is ring template, JPG. Then I'll go into Photoshop, and I will open that document from here. I just want to put this in the other page, so this actually looks like it's already 7.5 by 10. I don't want the whole thing necessarily. I'm going to get a rectangular selection marquee that's right here on the toolbar, or by pushing M. I'm going to grab the bottom right-hand corner. Control C, Control Tab to go to the next document that I have open in Photoshop, and Control V. Control Tab to go back to the original, and I'm going to close this so I can hit exit. I don't want to exit the program. I'm not going to bother you finding it there. I don't know where it is offhand. Just hit Control W. That'll close that window out. So now I have this. Next thing I want to bring in is my file from Rhino. Want to see if I have that already prepared as a JPEG. Okay, it's right here. So I don't. I have it as an Illustrator file. So I'm going to need to double click on it here. So I'm not opening this in Photoshop. I'm opening this in Illustrator. If you just go to the lines that you output from Rhino in Illustrator format, and you double click on the file, it'll open Illustrator automatically. Assuming you have Illustrator, which you should. It's free for you as students, and it's available in all the computers and all the homework labs. Control A to select everything. Drag it in the middle. Control G to group it. Set the point width down. Just select that and type in 0.33. Enter. And that looks good. Make sure it's selected. File, export. I'll put it in the same place. That's fine. JPEG. Make sure it does say JPEG. You want resolution to be high at 300 and anti-alias art optimized, super sampler. RGB. And you can also just slide that all the way across, make sure that says RGB. Hit OK. Okay, we're done in Illustrator. Going to come back into Photoshop. Open. Documents. Go find that image, which is right here. Going to Control A to select it, Control C, Control Tab to go to between documents, Control V to paste it in here. Come back over here and just Control W to close that out. So now I have the two elements I want. I have two layers here in the background. To move your layers around, to adjust them, you can click on the Move tool, or as you can see here, just the V shortcut. And that'll allow me to grab this and reposition it. What I'm going to want for my sketches is primarily going to be this front and top view. Okay, I have some question about whether or not I will bother with the side view. Maybe I want to have it just to sketch from. So I'm going to go back to my rectangular marquee, which is M. I'll go ahead and select everything off of here. Make sure that's the layer that's selected. Control C. Now, if I just hit Control V, it'll throw it in the middle here. If I hold down Control Shift V, it'll paste it exactly where I copied it from. I don't have a preference right now, but it's good to know the difference. So I'm going to Control Shift V. And then hit V so I can move it over. Turn off my original. Problem I'm going to have, by the way, zooming in and out in Photoshop is the same as Painter. Control spacebar is zoom in, Control Alt spacebar is zoom out, and it zooms centered around more or less your pick point. Going to come over here to normal. This is what in Painter we would call the composition method. And I'm going to hit multiply. This is very similar to Painter's gel. And you'll see that these should line right up, which they do. Now, what I'm going to run into here is that this is all too close together. This is actually on top of my front view, and I need all three of these things. So, for now, I'm going to come down here, select my main template, go back to Marquee again, and I'm going to grab these two bottom parts. And I'm going to pick them up to make them actually I'm going to cut them. So I will Control X to cut them. Make sure this is still selected. It's going to paste in wherever, right above wherever is currently active in the layers. Control Shift V to paste it back in the exact same place. And going to move them down a little bit. I'll just use my arrow keys. First I'm going to go into V so I can move them. And I'm going to want just a little more room there. Okay. Now, in Painter you had commit transform. Photoshop, the way you commit transform is to just pick a tool that demands high resolution. If I pick another layer, it will go ahead and do the commit transform for me. Marquee tool again. Turn off my drawing from Rhino so I can see well. I'm going to grab the ring bore. Once again, I'm going to Control X. Turn that back on so I can see for reference. Control Shift V so it comes back in the right location. V to activate the move tool. And just arrow key straight down. I want plenty of room between here and here. So I have room for that head section. Okay, that's good. So now I'm going to come back to my top layer, which is my Rhino drawing, and I'm going to V so I can move it, and I will lower it into position. Center it up on my template. Now if your ring size is smaller than a size 7, you'll just center it up on this. And you'll use your template rather than what's going on underneath. You'll also have to re-lay out this length. You would take your ring bore and times it by 3.14 to get the length of this. So this template only works seamlessly the way I'm doing it if you happen to be doing a size 7 ring. But the principles are the same. So now I want to move the top view. So to do that, I'm going to get my marquee available. And select and then just hit V to move. And it'll activate just this part of the layer, which I can then move down. Until it is centered up. I'm going to copy this, Control C. Actually, first I'm going to commit it, so I will click another layer and then click back again to make sure that it's gone back to its high resolution. Control C, Control Shift V. So I just copied it and pasted it again. V to move it, and now this is a new layer and it's set to normal. So I'm going to go back to multiply so I can see through it. And align it up as best I can on top of here. That's good. Now I do have this little bit here. I'm not going to worry about that just as yet. So take a look at the layers that I have active right now, have open. There's that top and the rest of the drawing. So I'm going to put these together, select them both, and I'm going to hit Control E. That will group and collapse them into one layer. Once you collapse them, they go back to normal as far as their composition method, which is actually fine. There are several ways to work with this. Actually, I am going to take them back to multiply. And I have this layer, which is the bottom, the front view here on the lower half, and the rest, top regular top view, and the rest of that template. I'm going to select these three, holding Shift key down to add to my selection, Control E to make them into one layer. Okay. So I've got that. I would like this to be less obvious. I want to have access to it, but I don't want it that bold. So I'm going to take the opacity of the layer and kick it back. like so. My line drawing, we've already discovered that my patented method of rotating pixels to make them soft in Painter doesn't work in Photoshop, so we're not going to bother with that step. But I am going to also lower the opacity here, because that hard black line does not feel like pencil work at all. It feels like a black ink pen. And we've just about got it. Now, you can leave this if you want to. I'm going to remove it. This is a polygonal lasso tool. If you don't see that, if you see lasso tool, or you see whatever that is, magnetic lasso tool, that's actually pretty cool, the magnetic lasso tool. I'm actually going to try that just to show you how it works. Magnetic lasso tool, I would turn off the layer underneath. And it's going to try to stay as close to the image as possible. When you see the little 0 next to the magnet, it's closed it off. Okay, this is too tight for me. Control D will undo that selection. I really prefer the polygonal lasso tool. Works like a polyline in Rhino. Click, click, click. I just want to remove this so when the little O shows up next to the tool, I know it's closed, and then Control X to remove it. I could also erase this with my stylus if I wanted to. Either works well. So now I have these two together. So I'm almost done except for the 3/4 view, which is in my way. I'm going to use a Marquee Selection tool. Select it, Control X to remove it, then Control Shift V to bring it back, but on its own layer. Turn that off for now. I'm going to move this down the layer stack so these two are together. Now I want them to become one layer for my sketching purposes. I actually still feel that this is too bold. There. For my purposes, that's nice. You can leave yours more opaque if you want to. It's up to you. So, I have these. Now, if I Control E them, the transparency of the top layer is preserved, the multiply effect, and it just brings them together into a single layer. Turn on V so I can move it, hit V, and I have my template. Now, I could just use one of these if I wanted to, but I'll show you how to make a multiple template. I want to get rid of that quarter down in the corner, so I want to move it. So back to M for my rectangular marquee. Select, cut, Control Shift paste back where it was, V to move. Bring that down here somewhere. Come back to this layer. This layer I'm just going to Control C, Control Shift V, pasting it in the same place. So it's there, and then I can just use the arrow keys to move it down. Once I think I've got enough room, I want to do it again. This time I'm going to combine the two layers, these two. Control E, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Oops, sorry. Control Shift V to paste. so it lands back in the exact same place. And then use my little arrow key to bring it down again. I'm going to bring this down. Now it's interesting because this is actually set to be somewhat transparent. It's set to be as transparent as the top layer was. But now opacity is 100%. There's no way for you to change that. It's just a remnant of what that layer was before. Doesn't matter to us much one way or the other. After I've got this lined up nicely, I really only needed the bottom one. I kept both so that, because this helps me to position it to get an equal spacing. M for Marquee tool. Drag over that, and X, Control X to cut it. And now everything is equal. I'm going to grab these three, which is all of the layers, and I'm going to Control E to make them flat. So the only thing I have left now is my my original. I just kept this in case I made a mistake. It's a safety. In fact, if I were to layer these now, I would call that my safety. This is my 3/4 view. My 3/4 view, we have discussed, is going to be bigger. We can do it at 150%. So, edit, transform, scale. Now, I can scale right here. In Photoshop, I can just grab these handles, any corner, and I can drag. It'll give me a uniform scale by default on my computer. When you're in the homework labs, you may find it acts differently. If you hold the Shift key down on my computer and you pull, you get non-uniform. Sometimes in the homework labs, they're set to flip. It's an option in the software. So try dragging it. If it doesn't give you uniform scale, automatically hold down Shift. If it gives you a constrained universal scale without Shift, then know that if you hold Shift, you can get non-uniform. So I'm going to undo, get it back to what it was. But if I want to scale to an exact number, which I want to come up here, and I have rotation, and this would be that's a skew. This is my width and height scale. If I click on this tool, oh, by the way, you can see it doesn't say 100%. That means I have one more level of undo to do. In Photoshop, to do multiple undos, you have to hold Control-Shift-Z. No, actually, that's redo. Control-Z. Nope. I'm having a hard time letting it get one more out of here. Here's another shortcut to it. Usually I can keep doing Control-Z, and Control-Shift-Z gives you redo. Control-Y does nothing in this program that has to do with undo or redo. I'm just going to accept the fact that it's stuck there for now, because I'm in a video. But your width and your height, here, say it's at 94%. If I lock those, I can type 100% into either field. And that should have okay, hang on. Of course this happens when I'm videoing. Okay, I just commit transform this. There, undo. I want to put it back. Okay. Again. Edit. Sorry. Transform, scale. back up here. This means it's constrained. When I clicked it, I unclicked maintain aspect ratio. My bad. Sorry. So we want this to 150%. So I type 150. It does it for both directions, and I'm good. To get that to commit transform, I can hit the brush tool, or I could have come over here and tapped a layer. I want this to be the same level of black as this. So slide my opacity slider till I get a nice dark gray, kind of pencil line color. And that's good. Now, if I want to bring this down in the exact same place for all three templates, let's say I do. Marquee tool, and I'll just drag a marquee around this in the side view. Now, they're on separate layers, so if I hit Control C right now, all I'm going to get is the 3/4 view. But if I hold Control Shift C, it copies all the way down to the background in one layer. Control Shift V pastes it all together. And V activates move, and I can bring it down. Hit multiply. Oops. Just like in Rhino. If I hit arrow key over in this window, it changes it. If I want to move, I got to click the canvas. If you're over in here in the mode, Photoshop thinks you want to arrow key up and down that list of options rather than arrow key your layer up and down. Now I can do the arrow key thing. Of course, I can decide not to and just drag it. Center it up. Control Shift C. Actually, I don't want to go all the way through. I just want that layer now. So Control C, Control Shift V, grab this, bring it down, line it up. I want to make all three of the layers with a 3/4 view one layer, so select them all with Shift to add, and then Control E to collapse them. Marquee tool, I don't want anything on this side, so I can either select this, or I can select just the 3/4 views and go Control Shift I to invert selection. That's also under Select, Inverse, and it'll show you the shortcut was right there. And then Control X. That got rid of the extra side views because I don't need them. I don't like that it's covering up my quarter, so I'll go multiply. Remember that quarters to make sure I have actual size. Control E to combine them into one layer, and now I have a template that I can use for all of my further sketching. All right, and that's, oh, need to save it. You're going to save it as a Photoshop. Just hit Control Save, and it'll save it as a PSD file. And I'm going to call it 3-stone template in my computer. Call it whatever you want. Save. Accept the default there, and you're done. Thanks for watching.